Okay. Um, Hello, everyone. I'm very pleased to meet all of you here and to start our event. And first of all, I want to introduce our organizers of this event. And this Olga Kovbasyuk, the founder of Krauslab community, expert of cross-culture communication. This is Всеволод Tarmasov. Yes, Yeva, show yourself. Here. Всеволод Tarmasov, also founder of Krauslab community and head of the hosting international center, information center on nuclear power here. And myself.
There is no nuclear energy here, by the way.
No, yeah,
no
checked,
worries.
checked up. Yeah.
It is checked, right? And of course, Angelina Dolgaya, also a co-founder of Krauslab community and a coach on the coach on organizational design.
Yeah.
And we welcome everyone to join our first blended meeting, which is going to be transmitted online on YouTube and also offline. We're having an offline audience. So there will be some participants who will be listening and not participating probably, but at least listening on the YouTube. That we will have online speakers, and we are having an offline audience here. Students of Krauslab, students of the Institute of Education, students of the Institute of Economics and Management. All of them, are fluent at English, and they're very interested in the topic of our today's meeting. And we will have online speakers and offline speakers today.
Yeah. And if you want to put any comments, you just feel free to put it in YouTube in the chat box and the questions for our speakers. And I want to ask you if you ever wanted to have a job and to work in a nice and cozy environment.
Yeah.
Did you ever want to have a freedom in time planning? Did you ever want to have a nice and pleasant colleagues available for communication, for very nice and pleasant communication whenever you want? Sure.
Oh yeah, day or night.
So almost everyone had such a dream, and this dream becomes true, and every day it becomes more and more real for all of us. And this is good news. But the bad news is that this type of work usually could not be fulfilled alone, individually. In most cases, this type of work is done in teams. And to manage this type of teams is a very, very hard challenge. And that's why we picked up this topic, and thanks to Alexey Kataev, who one of the first practitioners. Yes, Alexey Kataev, he is our key speaker, who is head of development in Skyeng, #1 Russian company creating a platform for language education. And Alexey already pumps up this topic for quite a long time, and he will be our first speaker and second speaker, because the first speaker is Artem Pimenov. He is now in Antwerpen. He works in Johnson & Johnson in Belgium, and he is responsible again for work of distributed teams, but in supply chain management. And
our next key speaker is Vas Taras. I'm very pleased to introduce Vas Taras as a super professional in managing distributed teams. He is the one who founded this global business X culture platform we are all participating in. And actually, I've been talking about this platform and this possibility for a number of years. Today, actually, at the Forum of Global Partners, the Institute of Education got interested, so we may have more people to join. But as I mentioned at the forum, this has become my passion as well. So, X Culture founder, professor of North Carolina University, Vas Taras, will share his expertise in how to manage distributed teams of students, MBA students.
International.
International.
Ближе.
Okay, yeah.
And
We also have two offline speakers. Yana Rekut is a head of the distribution sector of the Splat company, which is also international. So Yana is experienced in working with distributed teams as well. We also are having one of the winning a student in X culture. Last year, Siavush Norov has become a student of Krauslab who was in the winning team. Yes, Siavush will also share his experience in how he coped with all the challenges on working in distributed teams. And he managed, he succeeded in accomplishing this great program.
right. And as far we've got this format of event as a workshop, so it means that we would like to find out some insights from this event. And that's why I take the responsibility to put on the board the challenges of the remote work in a team and the solutions. And that's why I ask our speakers, dear speakers, to again to put some attention to these issues like challenges and solutions. And you can put it open or just or you could answer on these questions, and that will be the summary of our event. So, and now I am so pleased to give a microphone. Seva actually will give a microphone to Artyom. Artyom, yes, we are very happy to greet you here in Kaliningrad.
Happy to be here.
Yeah.
Can you hear me well?
Yeah.
Yes.
Very well.
Very well. All right. So I'll try to share my screen now. Let me see how I can do it best. And let me know when you can see it, please.
Ooh, wow.
Yay. Okay, so it means so you can see it. All right. Okay, so first of all, thank you for the invite. It's a pleasure to me to be here in this forum. So I prepared a quick, well, not a quick one, but hopefully interesting slide deck on my experiences with various distributed teams. It does not represent a point of view of Johnson & Johnson. That's what I want to make clear in the beginning. So this is my solely personal experience working and leading distributed teams in finance, yeah, for projects and operations as well. So yeah, hopefully you find it interesting. And when we were discussing like what it should be about, yeah, we were saying, okay, well, probably it should be about the connectedness and technology and virtuality, like how people perceive it and also how we experienced it in our everyday life. So just to get us started, maybe I think we first will I want to focus on technology, and let's see where we get with this. There has been a lot of progress with technology recently. So everyone has smartphones, everyone has laptops, everyone is connected via Skype, via Hangouts, or via any other means of media or connection with each other. And yeah, I don't know. I mean, even a couple of years ago, I could not imagine that my washing machine would be connected to my Wi-Fi. Honestly, don't ask me why. I mean, why I connect my washing machine, but probably it was asking me to connect. So yeah, so these things are happening around us, and then it's progressing very rapidly. It's yeah, thanks to this technology we are talking now, and yeah, hopefully it is, you can see me, you can hear me, and you can see the slide decks as well. So who knows where it takes us in the next couple of years with the progress that it's making. So with that, found one interesting study that I wanted to share with all of you. And unfortunately, it's an old one. It dates back to 2016. I think it's a study of GfK. And they were asking how different groups of people, depending on their age, perceive the non-face-to-face virtual communication and interaction. And you can see here that a lot of people, and especially the younger generations, they do say that the virtual communication is as good, at least as good as the face-to-face one. Although the older generations say that, yeah, okay, maybe it's a bit less effective. So you can see, I mean, this is 2016 data, and I guess a lot more people are starting to perceive the virtual communication as a primary source of communication now. So yeah, it doesn't matter for a lot of people if you are discussing business, if you are there physically or not. So I think that just illustrates the current state of things. So also, just for your information, the same picture is given around various countries, how people in different countries perceive it. Very interesting that the Japan and North European countries, I would say, Germany, Belgium, Canada, Australia also are more in favor of face-to-face. Although the countries like Brazil, Russia in there as well, US, are perceiving that the virtual communication is really more effective and really give you the presence that you need in the meetings. So given that, I think the future is definitely going in the direction of the virtual. What we need to consider when we go virtual compared to the face-to-face, I think there are different things. First one I want to highlight is technology, definitely. Given that there are so many tools, so many programs and ways to interact now, I mean, we have to be very clear what tools and communication channels we use for our primary communication. And of course, the costs related to it. So some of them are free of charge, some of them are charging fees for business users. So that's also consideration, and you need to make this assessment when you're going virtual. So what will be your primary communication tools, and also the internal governance, like what do you use for your everyday communication inside the working community? What will be your semi-official communication channel? So will you use Twitter, or will you use Facebook, or will you, for example, use something else, or Yammer, for example, or unofficial or fully unofficial private communication? So yeah, a lot of teams are using WhatsApp, Viber, for just private messaging, or even like an official communication channel. I know the teams that are using that as well. Also, important consideration is whether you're using that for ongoing operations or for projects. So I know some of the teams may opt to use some kind of a project communication environment, so that you're communicating inside the project, that all the communication is stored there and it doesn't go out of the project environment, and it stays there like forever as a documentation. Operations teams may vote for something more interactive, like video conf tools with some, I don't know, chatting facility or something like that. So this is another consideration to take into account, like how do you really want to make things happen in your team? And this is a task of a leader to define it together with the team, I think. And now the next topic is employee engagement. Like, how do we make sure that the team is a team actually? That's the most important point to me, and this is maybe what I want to tackle in the next few slides. And I can tell you right away that if you're shifting from the face-to-face or from the real life interaction into the virtual, the things will never be the same again. It's a totally different dynamics, and it's a totally different ways of doing things. together as a team. So I will focus on that a bit more in the second part of my deck. So going more into the engagement, but first of all, I think we need to take a step aside. So I really love Tripp and Tyler. These are the bloggers on YouTube who film wonderful videos. So a conference call in real life, email in real life, or video conference call in real life. I do adore them. I think a lot of people have seen them already. For the sake of time saving, I will not show you any of these, but you may Google that. You may find that on YouTube. These are great videos that show all the downsides of the virtual communication and how they're funny in dogs barking on the background, or I don't know, people disappearing in the middle of the call, or different things, different funny things happen. So these are all consequences of doing things remotely, and this will impact you whether you like it or not. So the dogs will bark, and people will drop off and lose connectivity, and I don't know, lose their computer and will not be able to connect, for example, for a while with you. So these are the things that will make you think like, okay, well, how do I really handle these kinds of situations before I start with it? So something interesting, something I do recommend everyone to look in YouTube, and hopefully have fun as well. Have a good laugh. And why is that happening? So why do we have these gaps of communication? I think the different studies show that it maybe, depending on the context, of course, but 93% of communication is nonverbal, right? It's sometimes you are not seeing a real reaction of a person. Sometimes you are making a judgment about what the person is really saying, and then there are different reasons to it. And IT tools will never transfer this real life situations to you, these real life reactions to you. So what are these situations that will suffer the most with going to remote? So first of all, personal relationships. This may be impacted by cultural differences. We are all different, and I guess working in a multinational company, I can tell you, I mean, we are all different. So you are expecting a person to react in a certain way, and he or she doesn't, and that's okay, and that's something you will have to deal with. Language barrier, another one, a continuation of this topic. I think, yeah, there is a degree to which Russian is a native language to someone, or English is a native language. Stereotyping, I think it's true with every nation, like how, for example, Russians are thinking of the Americans, or Americans are thinking about Russians. That's something, part of the real life, part of life for everyone. And ultimately building trust. So I think building trust is a it's a big topic here, and then maybe this is something for psychologists to uncover, but building trust, I think, is important. And when you are not seeing a person, if in case the 90% of your body language is not visible, and people don't know who and you how you do things and who you are actually, it is very difficult to build that trust, and it takes a lot more time to do this. So that's a general topic, I would say. And the next topic is, I think, a bigger bucket is team relationships, like team dynamics. So what do I get here? I think first of all is team identity and cohesion. So who we really are as bunch of individuals sitting all over the world, for example, and doing various things. Sometimes one person doesn't know what the other is doing. Like, how do we identify ourselves? Are we a team really? And like, what is it in it for me specifically, for me as a person sitting elsewhere, and being disconnected, and not really interacting with people sitting on the other side of the country, for example? How do we make sure that the values of the team are the same, that we all understand where we are all going with the whole team? How do we implement changes to the team? How do we ensure that, if we want to change something with the whole team, that the whole team is following. And then finally, the visibility and exposure. I mean, we are all slaves of our characters, and this is a natural born trait of everyone. I mean, some people are extroverts, some people are introverts. How do we deal with that? Some people are behind the scenes sometimes others are jumping on the table and screaming, and how do we balance, how do you make sure that people have uh, equal recognition, I would say, and exposure to the management for their deeds and for things they accomplish. So these are the questions that I am asking myself, and I have been asking myself, and just trying to put it all together here. So appraisal and recognition is a continuation of pretty much everything. So in the end, when it comes to giving bonuses and actually saying thank yous, like, who is that deserves it, really? Is it the one who was working hard behind the scenes, or the one who was very active during the meetings? And it's very hard sometimes to distinguish this line. So the perception is one, but the real outcomes is another. And how do you come across with all these things if you're a manager of this team? Okay, so these were the key considerations that I was putting from my perspective, from my own experience. What I wanted to do also here is to share some real life examples, which teams I was coming across in my career and life, and just tell you a little bit more about what and how they functioned, and what were the peculiarities of those setups. So first one is 100% distributed team. Each person is sitting in a different direction, in a different location around the world. So fully virtual. Another type is cluster distributed. So different teams are sitting elsewhere around the world or Europe or country, but these are groups of people. And the mixed model. So there are groups of people who come together from time to time to work face to face as well. So these are the three types for me. For the first one, so the 100% distributed team, each team member sits in a separate location, different location, and usually I observed it with IT or business projects. So this is really a project environment. Face to face is never or very rare in these cases. So this is really like pure 100% distributed. Again, the issues and considerations are the same. I'm going to put it in all the slides here, so don't think that this is something different. What is different is mitigation. So depending on the type of interaction, depending on the type of the team, I think you can apply different mitigation actions, mitigating actions, and really have some kind of a strategy. So with these teams, which are 100% distributed, it's very low binding power in general. So what can you do about it? You either invest a lot to get these people together and to really share the same team values, or you don't invest at all. So my suggestion here would be to save resources, save investment money, and really go with it as it is. So one advice here is no strings attached, which means don't try to do no, don't try to do a lot more than it's really required with these teams. Usually you will have this team members specialized on very specific topics, and these topics will be time bound in the projects. So just make sure that they deliver, and then usually when the project is over, the team member moves on. So that would be the first model and the first mitigating action. Okay, well, I will not stop here, but I will definitely stop after this deck so you can ask more questions if you have any. So another model, the cluster distributed teams, group of people sitting in various locations. And this is really where I observed it. It's decentralized finance operations, for example. So the one finance team sits in Europe, the other team sits somewhere in Asia, the other team sits in the US, and then so on and so forth. So basically, there are groups of people, they are interacting with each other, but as as a global team, they're interacting as a virtual team. So face to face in this case are very infrequent. So if you have to move these groups of people together, then it will cost you some money, definitely. So with this specific type of interaction and with this specific type of team, I think it's group relationships, but not individual relationships. So I think the individual relationships will not suffer inside the groups, but it's the groups that will play a role of individual in this case. So it's more kind of us versus them that needs to be taken care of. So each team thinks that, for example, they are the best team, they're perfect, they're great, and others not that great potentially, to say the least. So this is something that comes into picture in this model. Now, what the advice would be, I think investing in bringing these teams together would definitely pay off. So what can help is a hopping leadership. So in case you are a leader of such a team, you definitely need to make sure you visit these sites and make sure that they accept you as a leader and that they are being kind of connected through you to the other parts of the organization. And the other part is foster connections between these teams and how to do it. You may do it via goals and objectives. You may do it based on your leadership example. So tone from the top is very important here. So just try to encourage the teams to connect with each other and get the others' perspectives as much as possible. And definitely, in case face-to-face is needed, maybe once a year, face-to-face would be great in this case to get everyone together. Okay, moving on to the next one. So this is a mixed model. I'll remind you, these are the groups of people who are sitting in various directions, in various locations, but they are coming together for face-to-face interaction on a frequent basis. So where I observed it is more or less projects and operations also. So it's a universal model. Why this model exists, I think, because it's a combination of the two. So it's really a face-to-face plus virtual together, and you can imagine that it costs more. So if you want to bring the teams together, you invest more by definition. Now, the benefit of this investment is that it is more kind of a team if we leverage face-to-face interaction as much as possible. So with being face-to-face, for example, half of the time and being virtual half of the time, team does not really fall apart during the time that they are away. Now, team goals and objectives still need to be leveraged from the previous model, so really encouraging teams to interact while they're offline or while they're away in the virtual state. So that would definitely help in any one of these cases. Okay, so that's it from my end. This is everything I wanted to share for today. Thank you all very much for listening. Now maybe we can open for any questions that you have.
Thank you, Artem. It was, I mean, really very thorough investigation of the problem, I think, and very detailed. And I think it looks already like a great study of this subject. Thank you very much. And if anyone has a question, you just free to put it forward. And I would, me personally, I would love to find out some life hacks or any kind of tools which you prefer in work in remote format with your team. What would you recommend to others? What's your favorite? I mean, just the most favorite tool.
Oh, there are so many. Yeah, as I was mentioning in the beginning of it, you have to have a tool for various purposes, I guess. And I mean, the company imposes you to use a certain tool for email. Definitely, you have a certain tool for video communication. You have a messenger for a company, also provided by the company usually, to exchange the short messages. But aside from that, we are using the social interaction network like Yammer, for example. So we're posting the team updates and anything that relates to the team or might be interesting to the team. So that's like a Facebook, but it's just limited to the team. And we are using WhatsApp for informal communication. So I have a WhatsApp group with all my employees, and we are sharing any updates that are informal, really, of informal nature or urgent nature with each other.
Okay, thank you. And I think that questions will arise later. And you, please, Artyom, stay with us just to participate in discussion, which could arise a little bit later when we exchange some other experience in such a interesting field. So, and next, our speaker is offline, and I would like to introduce you again, Alexey Kataev, who is our, almost, I would like to say, friend of Krauslab. So, Alexey, please have a.
Thank you. Thank you. Hi, guys. Hi, everyone. Hi, guys.
Whoops.
Sorry. Seba, would you help me to share my slides? Okay. I'm sorry. Can you?
You can actually
Hi.
sit on
Hi.
that funny chair.
No, I don't think I see. Thank you. Okay, my name is Alex. Thank you for the invitation. Thank you everyone for coming. And today my topic is about the remote work. And the question is, why do I have the right to speak about the remote work today? And the answer is on my slides, which are not here for some reason. Just a second. I work in Skyeng. It's, can you just make the clicker work, please? No, it does not. I think you should just focus on the presentation. Sorry. Okay. I work in Skyeng, and we work remotely since 2014. No, it just doesn't work. Can I just give it to you and you will fix while I'm... Okay. We work remotely since 2014, and I joined the company in 2015. And there were only 5 of us at the time, and now there are almost 100 people in R&D. All of them, more than 90% of them, working remote. Yeah. And I've participated in creating almost every approach and every process that we have for the remote work. So that's why I'm going to share my experience with you today, and I'll do that with the help of Peter. No. It's Pete. Yeah, it's Pete. He's been working in office for a couple of years until one day he found this job posting about the remote work, and he liked the company, he was interested in the project, and he saw some benefits in the remote work. What were the benefits? The first one is the freedom of where to work. He could stay in his lovely city, not moving to the capitals like St. Petersburg and Moscow, or he could travel and work. The second one is quite obvious. It was freedom of when to work. He could just save time on commuting, save time on lunches. He could even wake up at 11 a.m. and work whenever he wanted. And the last one, He liked his workplace. He had, you know, these two monitors. He has this very comfortable standing desk, his favorite chair, and he could stay with it, not moving it to the office. But Peter was afraid. He was afraid, and he had a lot of concerns. What was this concerns about the remote work? I'll tell them briefly to you right now. First, what was the interview going to be like, and what was his first days going to be like? Will anybody help him to work, because no one will be around him when he's working? Will he learn anything? Will anybody teach him? Because nobody is around. Nobody, as it used to be before. And will they control him strictly? And the last, but I think it's not the least important question, will he feel himself as a part of the team? So let's assume that Peter is joined Skyeng. And let's go through all these concerns that he has, and let's find out, do we have any solutions to these problems? Let's start with the interview. Okay, what did Peter expect from the interview? He hasn't ever had this remote interviews. He expected something very unusual. What's going to be like? And what actually happened? He discovered that it's very much the same. The process is very much the same, but it had some benefits. The first one, he felt very confident because he stayed at home with his cat somewhere around at his desk, and he didn't have to go anywhere. You know this. You come into the office, sitting on the couch, a lot of strange people going around. You're waiting for this interview guy. Nothing like this. But there was one confusing issue he had. The interview was being recorded, and but he got used to it in a couple of minutes. So you can ask me a question: why do you record these interviews? And we have three main reasons for doing that. The first reason is, if we have any doubts as an employers, we can show the video to our colleagues, and we can consult with them. We can rewatch the video to make a decision. The second reason is, if the guy doesn't feel one team, we can offer the guy to another team without having any extra interviews with the managers of that teams. And the last reason is that we are constantly improving our hiring processes, and we use this video, you know, for the cross reviews. And if somebody is starting to interview one day, he can just watch these videos and gain some experience from this. So that's why we store all these videos. But we, of course, we ask every applicant if he's okay with that. So we just don't record if he denies. So let's just look at the main principles we have about interviewing guys. So the first, you shouldn't be afraid whether you're interviewing or you're an applicant. The next one is that you should use the webcam to feel the partner, and you should, of course, have the good internet connection, and we warn every applicant about that. And my last advice is to record all the interviews because of due to the reasons I've mentioned before. So let's assume, no, not assume, but Peter has successfully completed the interview, and he's worrying what is his first day is going to be like. And he thinks, probably I won't know what to do. Nobody will help me. I'll be on my own. But he is very surprised that even before his first day, his team lead sends him a lot of documentation. So what's that documentation? Just after the next day after offer, the first thing is this, you know, this boring stuff as company wiki, company mission, this team's list, and company structure, and so on. You just need to know that. The second thing is the team. We call it team how-tos. There are a lot of pages like how to deploy, how we do code review, how we communicate, and all this stuff you just study before you join the team. And the last stuff is a lot of videos about the products we create, just to know what he's going to develop during his work. And on the first day, the team lead meets him with this one-on-one. There are a lot of one-on-ones during the adaptation period, like daily. Usually it's daily, or even several times a day. We meet the guys, we ask him questions, what expectations did you have? Are they met? What problems do you have? Is everything okay? It's very important, especially for the guys who start working remotely for the first time, because they get used to this constant connection with people and they lose it. So you need to support that. And in Skyeng, we have this onboarding task, which helps guys to understand what steps should they pass to become a member of the team. And that's how it looks like. There are some subtasks in our trackers. So the subtasks consist of such as read the FAQ, install the development environment, get acquainted with the project, and so on and so on. And the life hack we use here, we warn every newcomer that if you have any problems with that task, with all or the whole onboarding process, you should tell that to us, or make the changes by yourself. So after every guy who comes to our team, we are improving that process. I mean, it becomes better and better every time. So we just use them to improve the process, not doing it ourselves. So the principles of the onboarding. You should have clear onboarding workflow for you and for the newcomer to understand what to do. You should stay in touch the next day you make an offer to a guy, even before his first day, and you should stay in touch every day the first week, and you should continue this one-on-one process. And yeah, that's it. Daily one-on-ones, that's fine. Let's go further. He completed his onboarding tasks, his extra simple task, and started to really work on his first serious project. And what did he expect? That nobody will help him. Like, nobody is around, he'll do his difficult task. And the first problem he has, and he asks a question to his new teammate, John, like, John, I have a problem. Can you help me, please? And John doesn't answer. And why? Why does not? Because there is this asynchronous model of communication in our company. So it does not immediately answer to any questions. Like, you cannot distract people. And this brings us to a major benefit of the remote work, that you can focus on your work. You can just minimize, you can just close your communication tool and work, not being distracted. But a lot of questions actually disappeared because we use a lot of tools that helps us to answer these questions without distracting other people. Like, we use this fully completed profiles where you can find a lot of the answers, like birth date, GitHub account, Gmail account to share documents, so you don't have to ask a lot of questions distracting people. And we use Slack as our primary communication tool, and we use Slack tags as a hack to help people find teams, to find people without asking, like, who is the team lead of this team. We use structured tags to do that. And we have more than 1,500 channels in Slack, and it can be horrifying it was horrifying for Peter. He thought, like, do I have to join all of them? Do I have to read all the messages in those channels? And we use this principle of stream separation. We have different levels of channels. Like, there are some general channels such as for the general announcements. We have this unit channels like development, design, marketing, and so on. We have teams channels. There are 17 teams in our company, and we have separate channel for in each team. And we have this ad hoc channels which are created for the lifetime of the project. So you just subscribe to the channels that help you right now to do your work, and all of them are public. Most of them, okay, most of them are public, so you can easily find the information you need at the time. Let's briefly go through the principles we use for the communication. The main principle is to use conventions. You should write down all the principles for the communication. We have a lot of these documents, which tells you how fast you should reply if you are asked a question, or how you can find a person, and so on, a lot of stuff. And the other thing, how to use tools. We have a lot of tools for communication, for documentation. So we have a lot of conventions, how to name channels, how to post to channels. For example, you are prohibited to post to general channel because there are 3,000 of people there, and you are not allowed to distract them if you just have a stupid question. So let's move on to a learning process. Peter was very concerned whether anybody will teach him. And what did he discover? He discovered that there are tons of formats of education in the company, starting from the education day. What is an education day? It's a day when you are free from work, and the only things you do, you just watch videos, read articles, read books, but you are required to post a digest to a special channel, like to share this experience with your team. What articles were helpful, which were not very helpful, and you post the summary. What did you learn? How it can help your team, and so on. We have a book club. We have tons of webinars, like company-wide webinars, team webinars. We have this horizontal experience sharing, and so on. That's how our book club looks like. And so let's just look at the principles. Many people want to learn, and you should give them that possibility. So you should use a lot of formats of learning. There are a lot of them already, and we are constantly inventing some new ones. So you should just provide them this possibility. You know, this list of the courses. You should a list of the conferences they can travel to, and so on and so on. The question of control actually is common for both the employees and employers. So managers just think, how can I be sure that they really work in there, somewhere there? And the employees are worried whether managers will ask him strange, embarrassing questions. Did you work today, really? Or take the screenshots, or even count the lines of the code they wrote today. But what did he really face when joining the company? That the work logs are required in the company. Every day, at the end of the day, you should put in every work log. I mean, you describe the work you did today and how much time did you spend on it. And Peter was expecting someone to ask him, why did you spend so much time on that task, and so on. But nobody asked anything. So I'll tell you, the company, the managers, they were focused on results and on the transparency. So I'll explain this. How it works in our company. Why do we require all the developers to put in the work logs? The first reason is that we count a lot of analytics based on the work logs. How much time do we spend on code review? How much time do we spend on meetings? How much time do we spend on I don't know, everything? We count everything, and we do a lot of analytics. It helps us to plan more accurately. And the second reason is that we really believe that if person at the end of the day he sees what he did and what results he achieved, he will probably make some conclusions out of that and be more productive tomorrow if he analyzes his day. And the third reason is very it's just about the we're paying overtimes. If somebody wants to work more, we pay him for that time. I think it's just fair. So talking about the transparency, you know, what I mean here is that everyone can see the status of all the tasks, the who did what, and so on. And we use Arseny bot for that. It's just a guy. It's a bot who pushes every developer to update all the statuses, to do the code reviews. It posts a digest every morning in the channel who did not do that work, and so it pushes, and we maintain this transparency with his help. So the principles are: don't control too much, shift your focus from the process to results. By the way, we use demo days for that every week. At the end of the week, we have this meeting when you have a couple of minutes just to tell all the team what did you achieve this week, not what you have been doing the whole week, but what results do you have. And transparency, it leads to confidence, and it helps you to avoid all these questions like, what did you do yesterday? Is this task going to be deployed tomorrow? And so it distracts developers if the manager is always asking those questions. And the last, and I think the most important thing about the remote work is the concern and the question of the Peter, will I feel myself as a part of the team? Or will I be the robot freelancer who is given a task and I code and another task is given to me? And I think it's really a problem, but there are many ways to help to overcome this. The first thing is to motivate your team, and it's done. We do that with the help of the context. We share the context, and we use many ways for doing that. I'll just tell you a couple of ways. So the first thing is we arrange these customer meetings where customers explain why this task should be done, how it will help them or the customers. And every task which is given to a developer has this business problem which is going to be solved after the task is going to be deployed. And we have a lot of meetings, daily meetings. We have design stand-ups, analytics stand-ups, and this is Gosha Live. It's our CEO. He's Gosha. His name is Gosha, so it's called Gosha Live. And he tells everyone about the company mission, where are we going, and so on, so on. Just this boring stuff. Okay. Peter was very surprised. After he joined the team, he was told that in a month they are going to Tbilisi and to rent a cottage and to work together for a week. And we do that in Skyeng. We do that every year for each team. We meet together, we work together, live together, make fun together. And it's not very productive in terms of work, but after we return home, I think we feel very connected and we work twice as hard as we did before. And so let's go to the main principles of connection. I think that context leads to motivation. So you have to give a lot of context to your developers, to your guys on different levels. And the offline meetings, they are crucial for people because it's just, we need to feel each other, we need to feel connected, and it's not going to work through remote all the time. So let's just sum everything up. The remote work has a lot of benefits, I've mentioned before, and it has a lot of concerns and problems. There are many of them which are not in this list, but I think all of them all of them can be resolved in different ways, but you have to work you have to work hard to do that. And these are the main principles that we use, so let's just quickly go through them. You should have a clear workflow for every process that you have in your team. You should maintain the highest level of transparency that you can. You should shift the focus from the process to results. You should use webcams and photos and stuff to feel people connected to each other. And you should, at least once a year, you should do that offline meetings and meet together somewhere. And I have a lot of different materials which I can send to you, among which are the following. Some books I recommend you to read if you start the remote work or managing the remote team. The tools we use with the descriptions of how we use them and all these conventions I can share it with you. So if you are interested in these materials or you have some question you are too shy to ask today, you can text me on Telegram or Facebook. Just say hey and I will send you everything. Thank you very much. That's it.
How motivating, right? So please, I think that every single person is now thinking of whether he or she will start an online company now after your talk. Motivating.
Thank you.
And yeah, and I would like to thank the Skyeng company itself, because I think that this is very good example of sharing.
Yeah.
Because the company allows Alexey to share.
It encourages our employee to share every experience he has, because we just think that's very productive. We share and people share.
By the way, have you heard of Skyeng before? Have you ever heard? Yeah, most of you have heard of this company, right? Me personally, I've heard of Skyeng. When did you start? 5 years ago?
No,
6 years ago. Probably at the same time when I studied the X culture and the Skyeng, and it was a dilemma because I had my private school, the English school, and I was thinking of going online. So I was a bit kind of, suspicious and jealous about, who is going ahead of me online teaching English, And then I was kind of, watching you. But then I turned to X culture, which, relates to what we are doing with students more. Teaching English, of course, is very important. But then, by the way, Skyeng, Splat, Johnson & Johnson, if you have any dilemmas and you would like to outsource them to students all over the world, you're more than welcome to do so, because today we are having Vas Taras, who is a founder of this absolutely amazing X culture platform, where companies can outsource their dilemmas, and I'm sure Vas will tell more about it. Do we have questions to Alexey, or do we? Yes. Okay.
I am Fabricia. And about this case, for example, Peter, when you said that what makes he feel like a part of the team.
Mm-hmm.
For example, I'm freelancer as well. What makes me feel like as a part of the team is if I see how to say, if the team members they not accept my ideas, but they consider the ideas which I give them. So in this case, in your company, what are the how to say, do you have facts that normally make people feel part of a team? Because as for me, for example, it's about my ideas. For example, it's how I feel
Yeah, cool.
Yeah.
Cool. Good question. I've mentioned before that we have a lot of interesting meetings. I call that this way, and I think that most meetings is the sharing meetings. Like I mentioned, refactoring meetups, for example. It's very specific for the developers. But the meeting itself, or Kaizen meeting, it's from Kanban, this continuous improvement. It's all about sharing ideas. So we collect ideas asynchronously. You should post your ideas, and then you have this discussion. And we have all these conventions, about running the discussions. So we ask everyone if he has any ideas. We ask everyone if he has any opinion about that. So we try to manage these meetings, whether you are very active or you are not. So we pay attention to that, and I think that all these meetings are really very interesting for especially the technical ones, like technical reviews. For the technicians, it's just works this way. So yeah, I think that if these meetings and where you are required to use webcam and to speak and stuff, I think that it's the top one thing to feel connected to the team. So thank you for the question.
More questions?
Yeah,
Okay.
maybe I can add to that. So what usually helps, and I'm not sure how far, how everyone is familiar with the concept of thinking environment, but thinking environment principles is what we implemented some time ago for meetings and for making sure that every one of the remote employees is involved. So there are a few techniques where, for example, each one has an equal amount of the airtime during the meeting, and they can uninterruptedly share what they have on their mind. That's one thing, and of course, you can do it based on the topic, but also if you sometimes have meetings even without topics, like team meeting, which is more informal for the people to connect with their manager or leader, or just between the team members. It's important that everyone has that moment of glory, so that they can have their airtime in front of everyone, and they can voice whatever they like. And it's also interesting that when you implement that, and it goes by itself, but it takes some time to get this habit of mutual respect with all the employees to get that implemented, to get that across to everyone and get their buy-in. But when it goes well usually.
Thank you. We even use timers for that. We use an online timer, like you have 2 minutes, you should talk, or you should not talk more than 2 minutes.
Yeah, indeed. Yeah, very good.
Thank you.
Wonderful. Thinking environment is amazing. Great.
Yeah, I think we've got a lot of questions, and me
Yeah, and we're
personally,
short
but
of time.
yeah,
I
we
think. Yeah,
should
thank
move
you.
forward and maybe have some time left in the end
yes.
to exchange to exchange the ideas.
Right.
Okay.
Okay.
To
Yeah.
introduce.
Yes. Okay. I think that everyone in Lab knows Vas Taras. Every single one. Here is the time when you meet this person, also online, actually almost in person. And we've been collaborating with Vas and X Culture for 5 years. And it becomes a part of our curriculum, and everyone is nodding, and you may, also start talking and questioning and making comments. But I'm very happy to introduce, and I'm very happy to
Well,
and Vas and Vas together, and also the students from the Institute of Culture who got interested in X Culture today. So please meet Vas Taras.
yes, and the pleasure is mine. We have about 5,000 students in a given semester, but to me, most of them just look like names on the screen. So hardly ever do I get to see the faces. So I'm very happy to finally see some of the faces. Savush, I've heard that you were one of the winners of the competition, so congratulations. Very nice to see your face. See, you can tell right away who the winner is. He has a tie and he has a jacket. You can tell by the way people appear. So anyway, I'm very glad that the first couple of presentations dealt with the technical aspects of global virtual collaboration. I was kind of, struggling trying to find the topics that I want to cover today. And in the end, I decided to talk about something that is not technical and not commonly discussed when people talk about global virtual teams. But at the same time, I thought this may be more important or has a greater impact on team performance in the long run. So let me share my screen here and talk about things that maybe you didn't think about before, but hopefully you will appreciate the importance of this topic after this presentation. So those of you, the other presenters, if you don't know what Xculture is, it's a project that brings together about 5,000 students, primarily MBA students, from roughly 160, 170 universities in about 40 countries on all 6 continents. And so what we do is we place those students in global virtual teams so that each team is comprised of about 6 or 7 students, where each team member is in a different country. And so as a result, they spend the semester working across time zones, across cultural differences, across institutional differences, communicating online, and working on a project together. And when we did the project the first time in 2010, the students had a kind of hypothetical case study to solve. But then in 2013, one of our professors was doing a consulting project for Mercedes-Benz. And so they were trying to develop a strategy, marketing strategy for Africa and Southeast Asia. And so they had a few brainstorming sessions trying to come up with the best slogans and the best marketing ideas. And then this professor says, hey, I have access to this Xculture project. They have thousands of students. Maybe the students can come up with some interesting ideas. And so they contacted us and asked if the students would like to give it a try. And so we tried, and it worked very well. We even impressed them so much that they invited, I think at that time it was like 23 students who came to one of their factories. We saw how they make those trucks and buses. I even think I have a picture here. I think, yeah. Oh, no, this is, yeah, that's the picture from that first event, first client, Mercedes-Benz. But anyway, ever since, we would select about a dozen companies. And so they present real life challenges. And then the students spend the semester trying to solve those challenges. And so the challenge for me becomes now, how do I organize all those teams, about 1,000 teams, in a way that they produce the best possible solutions for the clients? So on the one hand, I have literally about 5,000 smart, bright people working in about 1,000 teams total. On the other hand, I have the clients. And then the challenge becomes, how do you manage the process in a way that gives the best results for all parties involved? Best ideas for the clients, best experience for the members of the teams, best experience for the teachers. And so for the last, 7, 8 years, we have been doing a lot of research trying to understand why some teams do better than others, why some people are better members of global virtual teams than others. So we have conducted literally hundreds of experiments. We tried to manipulate and change, team size, team composition, the tools teams use to communicate, Dropbox, Google Docs, Skype, Slack, Trello, Basecamp, all kinds of things like that. Have a leader or don't have a leader on the team. Have a coach or don't have a coach for the team. Submit something every week, submit something once a month, submit something every 3 days. So we tried all kinds of approaches to see what works, what doesn't. And I can talk literally, I have a whole course where I teach all this stuff, and even one semester is not enough to cover everything we have learned so far. But I will share with you some of the observations that I have. Hopefully you will find them useful. One thing that I have learned, observing those thousands of teams, is that justice matters. So people are obsessed with justice. people care a lot about fairness, about justice, and people react very negatively when they feel that somebody is not doing enough work or is being compensated more than others, and vice versa. When everything is perceived fair and just, people tend to be much more motivated, work much better. Here are some of the numbers. If you know a little bit about statistics, these are basically correlations. And it doesn't really matter how big these numbers are. The point is that when people think that somebody on the team is performing less or doing less than the rest of the team, all kinds of bad things happen. Team performance goes down, people are less committed to the team, motivation goes down, satisfaction goes down, conflicts go up. And now, if I have to tell you one thing about global virtual teams that is the most important, kind of lesson that I can give you, it will be the next couple of, sentences, minutes. It's a little complicated, so I hope you will understand what I mean, but it's extremely, extremely important. And by the way, I don't know the answer to this question that I will post. So anyway, you all have participated in X Culture, right? And you know that at the end of each week, you do a survey and you evaluate your team members. You do peer evaluations. And you know that we use a 5-point scale to evaluate peers, from excellent to very poor. Question for you, and you probably know that already, you participated, but I'm just curious if you remember. What is the average peer evaluation? So when your team members evaluate you, what is the number that you usually receive on average across all 5,000 people on a 5-point scale? If you shout out those numbers, I should hear them. Anyone?
What is the average evaluation they give to?
Peer,
What is the average evaluation they
peer
give?
evaluation received
peers.
from the team members. Anyone can guesstimate that number?
Can you make a guess?
I'll show you these numbers because
4.5?
I wish. It's actually 3.9.
3.7.
Yeah, close enough. 3.9 on a 5-point scale across all weeks, across all people. Standard deviation is about 0.2. So, which means, again, if you know statistics, the average every week is very, very close to that 3.9. Hardly ever is it 3.8 or 4.0. Now, as you remember, in those peer evaluations, you also evaluate yourself. You give yourself a number.
How about
Can you guess what the average self-evaluation is? You can guess that it's higher. People give themselves higher numbers, but how much higher? Anyone?
4.9?
Close, 4.8.
Yeah.
Now, it gets even more interesting when we get to this question. You remember that we also ask you, as the next question, we ask you, of all the work completed last week, 100% of the work completed last week, what percentage was completed by each team member? And so, again, you give a percentage to everyone on the team, including yourself. And so if we add all peer evaluations, so if we add everything that you give to other people, and then sort of multiply it by the average team size, on average, we get a total of about 100. So on average, people give others or, receive from others, people receive from others roughly about 16 to 17% on average, which is normal because the average team size is about 6 people. So that gives us a normal, kind of average for the total that is close to 100 and for the individual evaluations. But if I add up all self-evaluations, so if I add up all the percentages that people tell me this is how much I did, what would be that total? So if you add it up for all of the team members, on average, what would be the percentage for the team? Again, you can probably guess that it will be a little bit more than 100 because people think that they do more than they really do, but by how much more? Anyone?
300.
300.
Not quite, but yes, it's 189, so it's almost 200. Now, let's see if you will be able to understand what I'm trying to say here. What that tells me is that on average, people overestimate their own performance by about a factor of 2. So which means that even when everything goes well, even if everybody is completing tasks on time and working hard and completes, like let's say we have 5 team members, everybody does exactly 20% of the work, it means that on average each of the team members thinks that he or she does almost 40% of the work, whereas everybody else does less. And so what that means is that even when everything is going perfect, even if everything is going well and everybody is contributing equally, everybody thinks that I'm doing twice as much as everybody else. So even when everything is fine, in my eyes, it looks unjust. I think I'm doing more work than others, and they're slackers and they're lazy, or at least some of them are. And so it's almost impossible to create a situation where everybody is happy and believes that everything is fair and everybody is performing well. And so what that leads to is that in global virtual teams, it's very hard, very difficult to have a happy team. If we all work on the same assembly line and I see you every minute and I see what you're doing, I kind of have good information about what you do. But in a global virtual team, by the virtue of us being in different locations and communicating only once in a while, I don't see how much work you do. And the way our brain seems to work, we have this kind of self-serving attribution bias. So the way our brain seems to work is that what I don't see, I don't perceive. So meaning that what I don't see, I just don't see it. And as a result, I think that, you're not doing the work. And so this is the challenge here. So this is the challenge. So here we have the problem that is almost unsolvable, because in global virtual teams, your team members will always be not entirely happy. Now, there is another thing that also seems to be an important factor, and we do have a solution for that one. Let me see if I can share my slides again. So another challenge that we encountered is that, and I think Alexey was talking about that, is kind of friendship. People treat friends differently than they treat, strangers. And I think Alexey said, after spending some time together, even though you don't get much work done, spending time together, but you get to know each other. And this is a critically important step in team development or team life. But it's not always available to global virtual teams. In real life, this is what my friends look like, right? So it's a real person. I know what he looks like. I know that he has a dog called Sparky. I know that he likes to travel. I know that he has a wife and 2 kids. So I know that person as a person. In global virtual teams, this is what your friend looks like. It's some strange name with a strange email address, and that's it. And so again, the way our brain works is that over the course of evolution, we have sort of kind of developed this propensity to treat people we know, to treat people that are members of our in-group differently than we treat strangers. So we are not interested in strangers. We are often biased against strangers. We often don't like strangers, whereas we like friends. We treat them differently. We give them, preferential treatment. We excuse them when they do something wrong. So there is a big difference here. And again, in global virtual teams, the challenge is that in many cases, you don't even know if it's a man or a woman. Like when you see a name like this, Yeon Kim, I mean, is it a man or a woman? You can guess that it's probably a person from Korea, but nothing else here. And so we don't have those same feelings. We don't have that same sense of attachment or social obligation to 2 words on the computer screen. Like, for example, we mentioned here Savush. Well, now finally I see the person, but until now, I mean, Savush was just a name, like a few characters on my computer screen. Again, I didn't even know if it's a man or a woman. And so as a result, in global virtual teams, people don't feel that same need to perform and to satisfy their team. In many cases, that kind of sense of obligation is not quite there. Because if it's my real friend and I spend with him a lot of time, we have maybe, I don't know, a beer after work or maybe a coffee over lunch, how can I not complete my task when John is waiting for my input? Whereas when it's about Yeon Kim, I don't care. I mean, I don't even know who Yeon Kim is. And so we have that, kind of propensity to delay work, or maybe to not complete it, or not complete it well enough. And again, that builds upon all that issue that we discussed, the self-serving bias, that, kind of free rider issue, the, lack of performance. And then it leads to more dissatisfaction. And as a result, all kinds of problems happen. The good news about this is that we tested a few intervention strategies here, and it actually seems to work pretty well. So for the first few years, since we only have about 8-9 weeks for the students, to start working as a team and complete the project, we thought we want to give them as much time as possible to complete the assignment. And so it used to be that the first deadline, like we form teams on Monday, and by the end of the first week, you have to complete, submit your first deliverable. You have to choose the company and decide on the market. And so basically from minute one, the teams had to start working on the task right away. But then we thought, hey, maybe we should give them a little bit extra time so that they get to know each other. There is this whole body of research that shows that in economics, for example, when people have to negotiate or trade or fight or do whatever else, if you give them just a few minutes to get to know each other, they will perform very differently. In fact, I'll tell you about an exercise that I do with my students. I'm not sure if you may have read about that. And then I'll go back to my slides here. So let me just, how do you switch back to my view? Right here. So there is this exercise. Let me see if you can see my screen, that I do with my students all the time, and it's just amazing. The results are so strong that every time I'm like, how does it, is it even possible? There is this famous game called Ultimatum. It was conceived by one of the Nobel Prize winners in economics, and it's basically from the game theory. And the game goes like this. So the person who runs the game shows $1 or $10 or whatever the amount, and splits the whole class into pairs. One of the people is a giver, and one of the people is a receiver. And then you come to this couple of people, to this pair, and you say, I'm going to give $1 to the giver. And so the giver gets the $1. And now the giver has to decide how the giver is going to split the $1 between the receiver and the giver. I can offer any portion of this $1 to the receiver, 50 cents, 50 cents, or 30 cents, 70 cents, or 99 1 cents. But the trick is, if what I offer is rejected by the receiver, then I get my $1 back and nobody gets paid. If the receiver accepts the offer, then they keep the money that they got. So most people would understand that they don't have to split it 50-50, because the receiver will probably accept less than 50 cents. 30 cents is better than nothing. So if I reject the 30 cents, I will get nothing and the other person gets nothing. But again, if I know that if I give the receiver too little, he will probably not be happy, and at some point will say no, and then we get nothing. And so in most cases, people would offer roughly about 30 cents, and usually about 30 cents are accepted. But if people offer less than 20 cents, usually people say, I don't want your money, I better get nothing but punish you for your unfairness. And this game has been played with all kinds of amounts and in all kinds of groups. They even played it with huge amounts of money, like $10,000, like they would go to a poor country where, like $100 is an equivalent of a monthly salary, and so they would ask people to split those amounts. And even in those cases, when you have a huge amount of money, if you offer too little, people would reject your offer to punish you because they feel it's unfair. But there are some ways that you can easily manipulate the outcome of this competition, kind of prevent all that unfair treatment. And one of those interventions could be to ask people to spend 2 minutes to share some personal story from their childhood, for example, about themselves. And so I've done this game many, many times with my students. I will literally bring a stack of $1 bills, split the whole class into givers and receivers, give them each $1 or $5, and then I would split the class into 2 groups, and I would ask one group for 5 minutes, for example, to just multiply some random numbers. I would give them a stack of numbers and I say, just multiply those numbers. The other group would have 5 minutes to get to know each other. And I would ask them to spend those 5 minutes to tell a story from their childhood, or tell about, their hobby or stuff like that. And then after 5 minutes, both groups play the ultimatum game, and I record the results. Every time when you give them just 5 minutes, nothing changes really. I mean, they just talk about their childhood. They just talk about, I have a dog and I have 2 kids, and, I speak 3 languages or 5 languages or whatever people are. When the time comes to make those offers, people who got to know each other, they're much more likely to make offers that are closer to 50-50. They're much more likely to accept those offers, and in the end, they get to keep more money. Whereas people who are just doing some random multiplications, as a control group, they tend to be more unfair. They try to take advantage of the other person, and as a result, they lose. And so in X culture, as I said initially, we didn't give people time to get to know each other. And then at some point, we gave them 1 week. So you know that when you participated, actually, I think you had 2 weeks. And here it should be 0 weeks, 1 week, and 2 weeks. Sorry, I didn't. Let me just correct it very quickly here. So it seems like I made a mistake here. And so what we found is that if you give people a little time to get to know each other, even though they don't really meet face to face, but we don't ask them to do anything related to the task. We just ask them to find out as much as possible about each other, because there will be a quiz and we will ask you some questions like, does this person have a job outside school? Does this person have a pet? Does this person is this person married, and things like that. So when people spend a few days to get to know each other and getting to know each other, all of a sudden, all kinds of wonderful things happen. Like, for example, as you can see here, peer evaluations go up to 4.1. if you give them 1 week, and up to 4.3 if you give them 2 weeks. It seems like it's a small improvement, like from 3.8 to 4.1, it seems like it's not a big deal. But again, those of you who know statistics, you see here the standard deviation. So a change like this, we are talking here like 1.5, almost, well, in fact, here it's like almost 2-3 standard deviations above normal. This is huge. Like, this is the equivalent of, like, when people run 100-meter sprint, Olympics, all of them run almost the same time. Like, the winner will get probably like 9.8 seconds, or probably it's going to be more like 9.9 seconds now. I guess I'm not sure what the world record is. But all the other people will also be like a fraction of a second behind. And it seems like it's not a huge difference. Like, it's all within like half a second. But for the Olympics, that little difference, it's a huge, remarkable change. Same thing here. I mean, a change of 0.3 points or 0.5 points, that's like, statistically speaking, it's extremely unlikely that something like that would have happened. So it's a big change. Likewise for satisfaction, likewise for conflicts. I mean, like, we cut the number of conflicts per week in half. I mean, this is a big deal. And all we do is just give them a little time to get to know each other. So I guess the lesson here is, if you ever have to manage a global virtual team, or if you ever have to be a member of a global virtual team, do spend a little time on getting to know each other, because, it will help down the road. And finally, and this is something that I'm not even sure how to talk about it. Ideally, I want to tell you something that, like a life hack, do this and everything will improve dramatically. And, this one little trick will improve your performance, 10 times. But the truth is that in most cases, it's still all about just doing it. So it seems like your IQ, your creativity, your technology, all of those are important, but not as important as simply, showing up and doing the work. Here is a real screenshot of the file from this semester. And from the last semester. And I hope your names are not here, because it's a real, list of students, and your name can literally be on this list. So these are the results of the readiness test. And then there is a column here, 15 and 16. That's when a team member is doing so poorly that we decide to first give the person a warning, kind of give them a probation. And if the situation doesn't improve, we kick out that person from the project altogether. So we exclude them from the project. And so, as you know, you all have to take the readiness test. And initially, when we started the project, or when we introduced the readiness test, we paid attention to column 22, which is the score. So basically, or column 23% of the correct answers that you gave to the test questions. And we thought it's all about being smart and being able to answer those questions. And we thought, if people answer all of the questions, probably they will participate well. And if they don't answer correctly most of the questions, probably they will not participate well. Maybe we shouldn't even allow them to participate in this project. But the program that we use to collect the data, so Qualtrics, the program that you use when you take that test, it gives me one more bit of information that I used to simply delete, until one of my associates showed me that it actually correlates very, very well with performance. And this is the percentage of the questions on the exam that the students attempt. So we have some students who don't even answer, don't even attempt all of the questions. So, we have about 100 questions on the readiness test, and some people just get bored, get tired, I don't know, are lazy, and so they would answer like half of the questions, or 80 questions out of 100, and then they just stop. So they just quit. And so we have that information because the program automatically records what percentage of the questions you attempted. And look at this here. I mean, these are real numbers. Like, this is a real, I hope I don't have the email addresses here for privacy reasons, but these are real people. So people who did not attempt 100% of the questions, so people who quit before completing the test, as you can see, almost always, these people are the ones who either got on probation or were excluded from the project altogether. So even though these people, like, for example, this guy here, he answered enough questions to be on the team, so he did well, or this one, he answered 92% of the questions, that's good. But then in the end, he is not a good team member. So it seems to me that you can be smart, you can have the best technology, you can have, I don't know, the best coaching, you can have the best everything. But if you're not trying, like if you cannot even try to answer all of the questions, chances are you will not try to show up for the meetings. Chances are you will not try to meet the deadlines. And as you can see, chances are you will be excluded from the project at some point. So like it or not, but diligence, responsibility, effort, they matter, and probably matter more than anything else. So I wish I could give you some sort of a life hack, like do this one simple thing and everything will be fine. But the truth is that there are no shortcuts. There are no life hacks. You still have to show up and do the work. And unfortunately, in global virtual teams, in many cases, it's harder to motivate yourself to show up all the time. When you don't really know the people, when you think that everybody else is not working very hard, why should I? And so when you don't have that motivation, all kinds of bad things will happen. And I don't think there is an easy solution to that. I mean, some people maybe are just lazy, or some people maybe are just not, taking this seriously enough. And unfortunately, that's the truth. So the good news, though, is that as long as you're trying, you can probably outperform people who may be smarter than you, people who may have more resources, because, the way it works is that those things matter, but only to some degree. So anyway, I'm going to stop here. So if you have any questions or comments, or maybe want to share your experiences from Xculture, I would be very happy to hear your comments. But that's basically where we are. So let me see if I can switch on my camera. So is it, why is it not showing? Okay, here we are.
Thank you so much, Vas. Each time I'm hearing you, I'm learning so much. And it's just, like a true, learning and sharing, which changes something, some aspects of thinking, how to work, and where to start, and how we can proceed. And I think that we can actually continue with just a few comments from the students. I know that today Diane was sharing, Diane, our bridge student from France, who actually shared some of her experience in Xculture with the Global Partners Forum. Can you, Diane?
I hope it was a good thing or a negative experience.
Yeah, actually, I was one of the winner from Xculture in 2017 as well.
Congratulations.
Wi-Fi. And with everything that you explained, it's just a comment. Now I understand that my team, we did more than one Skype every week. So sometimes was even 3 Skypes. And well, I didn't know if it was like this thing who made our team like a good one, but now I understand that because we knew each other, even though it was with a screen, I understood that it makes us like more motivated every week. And because of that, I think it's because of that that we were a really good team.
And you know what, Diane, we're actually doing a study now trying to see if teams that have at least occasional face-to-face conversations in Skype, if they perform better. And so far, the data seems to suggest that even if you had only one Skype conversation, it improves your performance dramatically. I don't know why. Is that because you kind of, saw the faces of the other people and now you see them as people, not as 2 words on the screen? Or is it something else? Maybe you can, as Artyom said, that, when you talk face-to-face, you communicate more information because you can use, nonverbal communication. You can use your gestures and the intonation of the voice and, mimics. So I don't know if all of that matters, but it seems like even you have just one face-to-face video conference, it makes all the difference, or a huge difference, than when you just simply rely on email or a text-based chat room. So yeah, so I don't know if you did it deliberately or it just happened to be the case, but it probably did make a difference in why your team did better than others.
Yeah, I have another brief case with Dennis. Dennis, can I also ask you to comment? Because when Dennis was enrolled in the program, and there was the first debrief, so to say, and Dennis was so frustrated. He said, "I did not understand anything when they, go on Skype. I'm ready to give up." He was so frustrated. And then we had a couple of more meetings, and then in the end, Dennis was so enthusiastic, like, "Okay, we're gonna have another Skype meeting next week." I was like, "Oh my God, Dennis, can I ask you to confirm that this is a true story?"
Yes, yes, you need time to understand and
Yeah.
practice.
Yeah, like the first meetings on Skype were so difficult for him. He said, "No, I'm not gonna do it. I'm gonna give up." But then in the end, he got very happy. Actually, who had a happy teams in
Oh
Xcode?
yeah. I want to see.
More people had happy teams than unhappy. Although there were some who were not quite satisfied with different. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, and I tell my students all the time, I mean, I obviously want you to have a good experience and I want you to have a good team where everybody is participating. But the truth is that as you will be working in global virtual teams in the future as part of your job or as part of your, other projects that you will be working on, most of the time, you will have at least one person who will not be participating. You will have at least one person who will be unethical, bossy, bully, all kinds of things, bad things. And so if you happen to be lucky enough to have a very good ex-culture team,
Yeah.
I'm sort of happy for you, but at the same time, I don't think you will learn much, because this happy experience that you had here is not representative of what's in store, in real life for you. Because in real life, things will go wrong.
Right.
So in a sense, I almost want you to experience some difficulties, because they will happen again, and you will know better what to expect and how to go about it and what to do.
Right.
So,
And regarding to these relationships, which do matter a lot with students, I can also, I would like to have a chance and to give a credit to my colleague Angelina here, who is always very supporting, starting from scratch, always looking through the final reports, saying something nice to the students. So I do not feel like I'm doing it by myself, because here is someone who is always here at your shoulder, who is always supporting, and who is always praising students, and
Thank you, Olga. Thank you, Olga, very much. And I would like to mention that the X-Culture work is really challenge for students. And this is not easy project. This is not easy project, and not everyone passes it successfully. But lucky and thanks to Vas, it's a good chance for all of them to get this experience, of marketing research and working in distributed teams. And I'm so happy that Sievosh is the part of the winning experience, and I hope that Sievosh will give our students and some tips. Yeah.
again,
Why were you winner? What was the
Why did you
secret
win?
of excellence?
Why did you win? What was the secret?
if I may just take 1 second, I would like to give the professors a virtual gold star. Because, for students, if you think it's hard for you to participate in a project like that, I guarantee you teachers have to work 10 times as much. And they don't have to do it. They can just give you, like dry lectures or ask you to read the textbook. But they choose to give you that experience. And by choosing to get involved with X-Culture, they basically sentence themselves to at least extra 10 hours of work every week, because they will get more questions from you. They will have to grade the reports. They will have to answer all kinds of additional emails. So it's a lot of work. So for their hard work, a big virtual gold star.
Thank you, Vas.
I wish I could give you the real one, but that's as good as you can do.
Thank
Thank you.
Okay,
I'm sorry, I
Start my presentation. I want to ask a question about how dividing teams and how the participants actually feeling comfort when they don't know their teammates and how randomly they divided. Is that somehow going to showing in the results? So maybe because of that, some teams they couldn't have a kind of proper result or something like that. Can you comment about this?
Yeah, that's a very good question. In fact, again, there is another study we have just completed. As you know, again, as you participated in Xculture, at the very beginning of the project, we ask you, if you still remember, there was a series of questions where we ask you what you think will be the biggest challenges for your team. And we give you a list of options like, like language differences, cultural differences, all kinds of things, technological differences or challenges, and things like that. And then we ask you at the end of the semester the same list of questions or same list of items, but this time we ask, looking back, which of these were big challenges and which of those turned out to be not challenges. I think the actual question is on a 1 to 7 point scale, how much each of these was a problem for your team. And so in most cases, at the beginning of the semester, when people are asked, what do you think the challenges will be? People say, oh, it's probably going to be language differences and it's probably going to be cultural differences. At the end of the semester, when we ask them, so was culture and language a problem? Almost all say no, not at all. I mean, yes, some people didn't speak English, but that's not a problem. The problem was that some people didn't show up for the meetings. The problem was that we couldn't coordinate our team, so we couldn't select a team coordinator and nobody knew what needs to be done. And so those things tend to be, as I said, I wish they were a little bit like sexier or interesting or more like a life hack. But again, in the end, it all boils down to the effort. And did you have a nice coordination in the team? Like, did you know who needs to be doing what and when? And yes, I don't know why some teams have leaders and others don't. It seems to be probably random, or maybe some teams just happen to have a strong individual who said, I'm going to be, the locomotive of this team. But when they do, and so when they know what needs to be done at any given point of time, they perform much, much better. And so when we look at the winning teams, almost always they had someone who did most of the coordination. The teams that lose, in most cases, they divide the workload by the chapter. And they say, okay, there are 10 questions that we need to answer, and there are 5 of us. So why don't you, for example, Savush, you will work on marketing, I will work on HR, and then Diana will work on logistics, and then somebody else will do the country analysis. And then let's hope that you will be done with your work at the end of the semester, and we will just copy and paste everything into one report and submit it. And when they do that, usually they don't participate very well. In most cases, somebody will not submit their work on time, somebody will not do a good job. So usually those teams submit very lousy reports. Whereas teams that say, okay, guys, it will be very hard to coordinate, so let's appoint Savush, for example, to be responsible for the coordination. So he will tell us who does what, and he will manage the timeline and send the reminders. And then maybe Diane is very creative, so maybe she will do the marketing strategy. And then maybe John is a native speaker, so he will do the final copy editing of the document. So when people divide the workload in such a way, usually they write much, much better reports in the end. So this functional distribution of tasks seems to be much, much better than when you distribute them by topic, essentially. So again, I cannot pretend that I know all the answers, but that's one of the things we see all the time.
Thank you very much.
Yeah. Are any of you going to Canada? Any of you going to the symposium in a few weeks? Do we have any attendees?
I don't think so.
No? Okay, well.
So yeah, sorry about that.
Well, next one will be in Grenada. So if you don't want to go to Canada, maybe you will come to Grenada. Nice tropical climate. So hopefully.
Okay.
All right.
Yeah, Siyavush has an experience of working in a successful team. Yeah.
So good evening, ladies and gentlemen. So can I have the presentation? Okay. It's not working. It's not working. Okay, can we start? Okay. Okay. Hello, everyone. Today, I just want to share some challenges that we faced during our project. and then at the end, what really the idea of X culture. So I found a presentation about what generally students faced, and it's kind of comparative between our team and general. The most teams had challenges. So uh, about distributed team, I don't want to talk. We already have enough information. Just skip that parts. What challenges that we faced in our project? It was lack of in-person interaction, as we already heard too many times. Really, it is one of the main factor that in each teams we face, because as I don't know who is my teammate, what are their interests, how they really interested, or for in what reason they are going to participate in that project. I cannot trust them. I don't know how to make a connection between these different individuals and how to react. For me, it was really difficult. Another, the main problem that we have, it was time zone. In our group, there were students from America, Germany, and Africa and Russia. So you can see the variety of difference and even continents. So simply, it was almost impossible to find convenient time to make optimal for all the people. So in order to get our Skype call, some people need to sacrifice some of their plans. Someone's need to, for example, sleep later, or someone's wake up sooner, something like that. That's why time zone, it was really, really difficult part for us. Well, another part, it was cultural differences, as we already again talked. It nothing new, but because we all people we have different culture, it was difficult to find the solution. So yes, and the black boxes, as I mentioned. In our group, we have weekly meetings through Skype. So we sit for almost 1 hour. We had the discussions to solve the questions that we have, to share the plans that we are going to do, and then generally to know what we are going to do. Okay. So, but what if when we turn off the Skype and each one goes going to do by themselves? How we know what would be the result? For example, as we all participant of X culture, we know not all the participants they don't have enough English level. In the other hand, the project that we have, it was really, really different. For example, in our cases, in 2018, there was 10 companies that they shared their case. We got interested about Nashville Chamber of Commerce. So it was about FDI, foreign development investment. I didn't have Imagine, I didn't have any idea about FDI. So what I need to do, comparing to other people that they have backgrounds of that, I need to spend more times. It, additionally, I don't know English, so it takes more times, more energies to focus on what I need to do. So generally, uh, okay, it makes it like okay, it makes it more complicated to focus uh, when you don't. Okay, when you don't know. So can we back to previous slide?
I'm trying.
I don't do anything; it's just by itself. Okay. Anyway, additionally to that problems, also in according to X Culture, Dr. Vas Taras in the X Culture site, they have this presentation. The main cases or problems that all the people's facing in generally teams. Some of them are, for example, we are the same like time zone, or I don't know about calendar differences. So there are something interesting, but fortunately we didn't have any conflicts or harassment or something like that. Definitely it was different ideas. It was sharing, sometimes challenging, but not conflict, because all the people, they were really professional team members. I mean, they were really passionate and eager to share the ideas and help each others. About language proficiencies, yes, it was somehow difficult, but not as much as difficult to not pass. So I can tell it's just a little bit challenging to have the uniqueness and plagiarism. We have it also one of our team members to focus on that. But in generally, as Dr. Vas Taras mentioned, we are disputed the tasks, but at the same time, each member read all the tasks and give their feedbacks about generally what they did. For example, one of the market that we choose, it was about China. One of our teammates, she doesn't have really deep information about the situation in China. For example, they're not allowed to use Facebook. They are somehow closed internet using and something like that. For a few days, she started to collecting the information, writing the report, but suddenly we team member stopped her and mentioned that it's not true because of reasons that we bring. And she started to change until the deadline. She managed to change everything. So it was really, really interesting part. The next. That there are some solutions if we can see them. Well, definitely I remember, but it would be okay. Next, next. Okay, so to making trust and know each other, first meet week, as Vas Taras mentioned, we're already making a video Skype call. So for just 1 hour, we just sitting in front of our gadgets and talk to each other, and it was really helpful. And after this Skype call, I called Diane. So I asked her what is X culture and what I need to do, and she sent me that she was the winner of previous. And to be honest, her personal experiences, it was really helpful for me to achieve that result, because before that I haven't any ideas. I passed the survey, first survey, and the language exams. I didn't know what I'm going to do. To be honest, telling the truth, I just it is something I need to pass. But when we get into that week by week, we understand how it is interesting and for what reason we are going to do. Another is about the barriers exist between each person. When we started to choose the project, each of us supporting the interest of the companies that we know. For example, I wanted to get the case about tourism companies, but some of the other team members presented different. Then at the end, we decided to choose something totally different that no one doesn't know the ideas. But I think we get the best result because it was really interesting. Next. Okay. Uh, okay. Uh, Another main problem for all of us is to having common vision, because when you as a team you have your personal ideas, you don't know what to do, especially as students, to solving and to write some reports about companies that you just for a week you know about them, and you start to writing a report and give them a solution for their problems. It's really important to have the common vision, to know really what you want to do and what is your goal. To achieve that goal, we started in advance during that week to read about the companies, and each person making short presentation about the idea of what they have and what generally they're going to see our goal after 2 months. So it was really helpful to make a common vision in that way. Another part of our process is to choosing the right apps and the right places, platform to share the information. We use Slack, Skype, Google Docs, and also Wunderlist to each different program to share the ideas that we had. For example, in Wunderlist to get in touch and be careful about deadlines, and as a checklist. In Slack also we had different channels and chats for different parts to be more focused and to don't forget each person for what part is responsible. And it was kind of the platform that you can directly sync it to your Google Docs, and so it's double help to not get integrated and focused on your work. Yes, actually, I recommend to participate in next culture, and it's totally worth it. Thank you very much for attention.
Thank you,
Thank
Sia.
you.
And I think that everyone knows now why Sia Bush was in the winning team.
Yeah.
And Vas?
Yeah,
Yeah.
one thing I wanted to say here, so we said about time zones. One interesting observation that we just made, that when you have a distributed team where each team member is kind of distributed horizontally, not vertically, even if the geographic distance or average distance in kilometers among the team members is the same, people that are located in sort of kind of horizontal distribution, lateral distribution, like someone in Asia, someone in Europe, someone in North America. So they will have many more problems than the teams where someone is, let's say, North America, like the United States or Canada, Mexico, Brazil, for example. Even though the distance is the same in kilometers, the time zones obviously mess it up and make it difficult to have meetings. So it seems like it matters how you're distributed around the planet, not only how far, but also is it, across time zones or along time zones. So that matters.
Absolutely, I agree. I can tell from my experience.
Well,
Yeah.
this is a great chance, and I know we could continue more and more questions and issues to discuss, and we will do it, Vas, on online or offline, and of course by email, because we are continuing, and we will remain a part of X culture, right? Everyone here? Woo! Yeah. But
Yeah,
thank you
and
so much for
Thank
sharing.
you. Thank you for inviting me.
Time, Vas, for your expertise, for your commitment to that, for
Yeah.
keeping us in your
Right.
team.
Well,
yeah,
looking forward to continued collaboration, and I truly hope that I will see some of you at least at some point at one of our symposia. So
We'll
I'm
do
not sure students, hopefully, but even more so the professors. So Olga, Angelina, if you ever can join us, so we have one in Canada in a few weeks, but then there will be one in Denmark, which is just across the street from you, right? The Academy of International
right,
Business.
right.
So it's June
You know what?
2024. So
Yeah,
in 6 weeks. So I don't know if you ever can join us, it would be very nice to get to
well,
know you.
yeah, we will. We will. Actually, we are now planning for something that is a little different, and the financial issues might
Right.
be more favorable to us. So we plan. We will do that for the
Well,
next
we
congress.
may even be able to provide some travel stipends. I mean, professors who participate over and over again, obviously, we would like to get to know them. We would like to sort of invest in them. So as long as you're interested in attending one of these future conferences, we may even be able to find some way to support you financially.
Wow. Thank you.
yeah, that's
Yeah,
true.
let me know once you're ready, and we'll find a way to get you there.
Thank you, Vas.
Yeah, and
Thank
it's, I mean, thank you for, and Olga, I mean, for very active position. I mean, for our students to train and to get this experience and come into real business life. I mean, like Yana Rekut, who is in real business in Splat. It's another company which is Russian-based company, and all who are in Russia, they know what is Splat, because this is really big federal company operating already for export a lot. And Yana is,
And Yana was in the X culture.
yeah, she was.
Yes,
Yes,
she
I was
was
once.
in
yeah.
the one
Yeah.
in the
Maybe like 3-4 years ago.
3 or 4 years ago.
Yeah,
Yes,
maybe
I
even.
remember
see,
that.
and now
certificate.
she's managing.
She's managing distributed teams.
Ooh,
Yeah, in
Yana,
Northwest.
X culture.
In Northwest.
Meeting so many, yeah.
Yeah,
That's what I was telling you about. For many years we've been working together, or with some people at least for many months, and I have no idea how those people look like. I just see some names on the screen, so it's not the same thing. So now it's definitely going to be a whole different
meet you.
level of relationship.
Jana was very successful in X culture. Now she's
Yes, I think we
successful.
were over 80%, better than 80% of the
Yeah.
students.
80%. Wow.
Yeah. So yeah.
And now she's a successful distribution manager. Managing
Something like that.
Okay.
Regional sales manager.
Uh-huh.
Well, hello everyone. It's really nice to be here in person. It so happened I came to Kaliningrad this week. I'll ask Seva to put in my presentation. Can you? Okay. Well, as Angelina and Olga already said, I work for the Splat company, and during my presentation, I will tell you a little bit about our company. Then I tell you a little bit about the team that I'm working with, my team, and the challenges that we have during this remote work, and a little bit about the solutions. So my presentation is pretty short, and I hope I can give you some practical advice on how we do that in sales. So the name of the presentation is the remote teams in sales. As I said, I work as a regional sales manager for the Splat. Here on the screen, you can see one of our best product, which is known worldwide. You can see it from the label above, from Russia with love. This is the most popular product in Europe, United Kingdom, and in Germany is the toothpaste #1, which is sold over Ozon. So that you can see what we do is the toothpaste, the oral care products, but not only, and I'll tell you that later. Well, some facts about Splat. The company was founded in 2001, and just 12 years after it was founded, we started actively exporting our products abroad. Now we are exporting our products to over 67 countries. This year, 70 countries. We had 3 more countries this year. And since we have to do this export work, all our products are certificated and tested, clinically tested, not only in Russia, but in worldwide. So we have team not only based in Russia, but all over the world. Well, the team became over 1,000 people, I think, 2 years ago. Now it's like 1,200 people, and most of the people are working remotely. Only people who work in the Moscow central office and the factory where we produce our products, they are working based and in the same place. All other teams are working remotely. I'll tell you later about that. Well, a few years ago, in 2010, we were #3 in home oral care in Russia. It's our home market, but this changed in 2018, and now we're #2 in Russian oral care market. And we have our own R&D department and the headquarters in Lotte Plaza in Moscow. Well, okay, 67 countries. The key markets is Russia, Germany, UK, China, India, and Turkey. We are really popular in Turkey. In Kaliningrad, we are distributed worse than in Turkey. So if you'll be there, go there and see. This is the brand market share. It's 17.6%. The first is the leader of the oral care in Russia is Colgate-Palmolive, and the second one is Spa. So we are reaching out. A few years ago, we were below with all those players down there. So now we have a strong second place. And we are growing worldwide, not only in Russia. The manufacturing place is in Novgorod area, in Akulovka, and we have also a contract manufacturing in Germany, in United Kingdom, in Italy, in Denmark, and in Bulgaria. And these are our brands. The one you all know about is Splat. It's our foundation, it's the foundation of the company. It's an oral care brand. There are a few other oral care brands, but they are not as well known because they are really special. Some of them, for example, are being sold only in the apothecary. How do I say?
Drugs.
Drugstore. Yeah, drugstore.
Pharmacy.
Pharmacy. See. I'm not really speaking English every day. Actually, I'm not really speaking it at all because I work in Russian department and my territory is Northwest region. Well, one more big brand is BioMio. BioMio is home care products, and this brand is not as big as other international companies, but it's growing every year, and this year is 5 years. Well, this is about the company. I can tell about it much longer, but I think the most important thing is to tell about the team that I'm working at and the challenges that we have. As I said, I'm the regional sales manager. What does it mean? Here on the photo, you can see me and my team.
Huge team.
Hello?
Huge team.
Huge team.
Big one, yeah.
Yeah. I have 9 territorial managers and key account managers all over the Northwest region and 8 supervisors. How do we work remotely and why? And most FMCG companies in not only in Russia, I think worldwide work the same way. I have a huge region from Urals to Kaliningrad. And in each big city, I have territorial manager who covers this territory and works with key accounts on this territory. That's why I put a dot on the map over the Northwest region. So the people are living in different cities. They don't have an office there. They work as a home office. But we're all working in the team because we need to achieve a common goal to be successful for the company. Well, the challenge one, which I pointed out in work as a remote team, is the distance. We don't have as much face-to-face contact, and that might cause differences in communication between us. Communication becomes more difficult because you cannot always talk to a person. You cannot always be sure that he understands you well, that information is not misunderstood. That's a problem. And as already a lot of speakers before me said, what we use as a solution is we use as much video and audio conferencing as possible. It doesn't mean that we talk all the time. All this conference, they must be relevant to the topic. They must be meaningful because they have to serve to some point. But it's really important to speak to each other in person. So every week we have a Skype or WebEx meeting, depending on the length of our meeting and the topic which we are going to discuss. It's regular meeting. Also, we have instant chats in different messengers, which you see here, like WhatsApp, Viber, Skype, to communicate about different problems. And we have different chat for a different area. For example, we have one chat for trade marketing. We have one chat for informal communications, and so on. Also, 2 times a month, not maybe as frequent as they do in Skyeng, we have a personal time. I have a personal time with each of my employees. It's about an hour where we discuss the problems which this person have, and he doesn't want to discuss it in front of all the team. We talk about the development of the person, about his motivation, about his plans for the future. This is the personal time between the manager and employee. Well, and I think one more important thing here is a smart goal setting, because if you don't do that, as I said, information frequently might be misunderstood or even misinterpreted. So you have to be sure that the goal which an employee has is understood correctly. Do everybody know what is a SMART goal setting means? I think everybody knows that. I just put it out. Well, the second challenge is team building, teaming and building the trust between the members of the team. Well, when you work in a normal team, not a remote team, the trust is gained during the work. So you work together every day, or often you work together, you see each other, you gain the trust when you do something together. When the team is remote, and especially when the new members come into the team, you can have problems with the trust. The trust between the members of the team and the trust between the manager and the members of the team. And you have to break the ice and use different team building and trust establishing activities. I put in some photos. We celebrate the anniversary of our brand. We play different sports, going to the sea together. Well, of course, we don't do it often because it costs company money, and it has to be relevant. We do that. I think I'll put it out on the second slide. We do that usually 2-4 times a year. We meet together as a team. Well, what is one more important thing is give a regular and honest feedback to each other. On these regular meetings, which we have, I think, once a month, we have a session where we share how we feel about what's going on in our team and in our company. And everybody has a few minutes to say. We don't have a timer. We just talk about that. And that helps to open people's hearts and minds to work together. And they are coming closer. Because it's really true that after you're coming back from the event where you met together, did something together, even maybe not relevant to the work, you start to work more efficiently because people are starting to help each other really hard. Well, of course, you have to have informal conversation, not only formal conversation, because it also helps to build the team as a one whole, as like a little family. And that's really important to keep tracks to personal events in people's life, like birthdays, having babies, like, I don't know, some achievement, maybe someone finished some special course, and you need to talk about that in the team, because people need to know who the team members are and what they do in the real life. And the third challenge is the motivation, and sometimes the lack of motivation when the person is feeling distance from the team. Especially when a new member comes to the team, especially when the new member never worked in the distributed team before. It must be really hard for a person to keep the motivation, because sometimes he might think that nobody sees the results of his work, that he's not doing what is expected of him. During our personal meetings, we usually have a personal development plan discussion a few times a month. Every employee has a development plan where he looks at what he's going to become, how he's going to exceed his professional skills, his personal skills, and we keep in track on it. We keep in track on each team member performance, and what is very important is to talk about the achievement and the great results which the person achieved in front all of the team. It's like making people see that his work or her work is really evaluated. And what I do to keep the motivation in the team is I pick team leaders for different projects or different, I don't know, little parts of the job or maybe even regular part of the job. For example, we're tracking some new launches and I have one person who is responsible for this project. He's feeling responsibility for all the team and he's tracking the results. He's contacting all the team members. He's contacting to me, and he's feeling himself like a little manager. It helps him as a part of his development plan, and also it helps a person to motivate himself because he has an important role in the company, in our team. And I think these are three main challenges that we face. Of course, there are much more, but I think it's a place for the further discussion. That's it, and everything will be fine. It's a lozung, как lozung? Motto of our company. yeah, that really is our inspirational leader, the creator of the company. He writes a letter in every toothpaste, and the final words is always "everything will be okay." That's it.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Maybe you have some questions.
Yeah, me personally, I participated once, had a honor to participate as a trainer and CrowdSlab, by the way. Alexey Kim and Ivan Lukyanov with Olga Yevtushenko in Zelenogradsk. So I know that Splat is very active practicing the meetings. I mean, meetings, team buildings, trainings for the people who are working remotely. I mean,
yes, and I see from the feedback from our guys, from the members of my team, that it is really important to them, and it is one of the things that makes work at Splat, that's making Splat a better employer than other.
Yeah, I think so. And it's very good for company. I mean, that's great savings on office space and all that stuff. I mean,
I have an office in St. Petersburg.
You have?
Yes, I do.
Lucky you.
And I also know that once you considered to outsource become a part of its culture, the company which may
submit the dilemma to X culture. I know you were considering once. I don't know what was
I wasn't with Splat then, maybe with Olga.
With Olga, yeah.
We use students' help to make some differences. This year they had in Moscow a student event where they took, with R&D, research and development, they took a few problems that we have, for example, fluoride in toothpastes, and they published it with the universities like Moscow State University, and the students were making projects and got some money and got a chance to work as a part of Splat R&D team for practice.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and we had the conference. Do you remember in the conference we had a Splat as a part of development as well and marketing team. Mm-hmm.
With X culture, so if any of the companies would like to present their challenges for the students, I mean, we cannot promise a miracle, a super wonderful solution, but what we can promise is that about 5,000 students will see the challenge. And you can see that as some sort of public relations and promotion. So I suppose there is some value in, becoming known in this large crowd. So some of these students may become future clients or suppliers or partners or employees. Second, the students will submit a lot of ideas. Again, most of them will not be good. I mean, the truth is that, yes, 9 out of 10 of those solutions will not be very good. But then once in a while, 1 in 10, maybe 1 in 20 tends to be quite interesting. And again, in many cases, it's not because the students are so smart. It's mainly because that it just happens to be that, serendipity. So somebody happened to know something or someone who is particularly useful for this particular challenge. And so it's like, sending ants in all directions to find food. So if there is somebody, who, if somebody dropped a candy somewhere out there, one of the ants will stumble upon it just by chance. And so same thing here. So it's, not that the students are very smart, but just because we have so many of them all around the planet, if there is an interesting solution to the problem, somebody may just happen to know that answer. And so there is some value in that as well. And then many companies actually do hire our students. I mean, as one of the CEOs said, that when I hire students the usual way, I can only see the resume, maybe the cover letter, maybe the half an hour interview. But with Xculture, I can observe a lot of students over the whole semester. I see their peer evaluations, I see their performance, quality of the work they do, timeliness, diligence, and it's a much better way to hire people because it's like a half a year long job sample. So again, not sure if any of those companies would be interested in this option, but if they ever look for people who graduated from good schools with a business degree, and in some cases multiple degrees, again, that's a good way to do it. So if any of the companies want to present the challenge, I mean, the students will like the challenge, and hopefully you'll get something in exchange from that.
Yeah,
Okay,
and
thank
I
you.
think that company Johnson and Johnson, very
And Skyeng,
world,
Alexey is
world
also
famous, yes, company,
nodding that
and
there might be.
Skyeng, yeah, you could
And companies like Johnson and Johnson are kind of affected at the company level.
Xculture project as well. Yeah, and
For a large company like Johnson and Johnson, with so many people involved, it's like such a big company, it's almost impossible to do it at the level of the company. I mean, the bureaucracy and the people that need to be involved, it would be too hard to do. But maybe at the level of the department, so we've worked with a number of large companies, and in most cases it would be one specific subsidiary or one specific department that has a challenge, so that seems to work much better. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. I can just agree with that because J&J is such a huge monster. I think we have a lot of also internal programs to leverage off a majority of the experiences and diversities and everything. But I think where it may play out is we have actually the MBA recruitment days.
Yep.
As a company, and it is a global initiative. And during these MBA recruitment days, I think people are applying from the major business schools, and they already show their CV, they show their things or projects that they accomplished during the time at the business school. So maybe this can play out.
Exactly. Yeah. Well, keep us in mind. So as I said, we cannot promise some magic pills and silver bullets, as they say, but some interesting ideas occasionally come out of it. And if you want to give it a try, we would be very
happy. Absolutely. No, it's great to know, and great to be invited to this event. I enjoyed it so far. So thank you.
Thank
you. Thank you.
What do you think?
Yeah, I think that's great. I wanted to ask you if you have any examples of challenges. I've already started to think.
For Xculture, yes.
So we can talk about this later.
Yes. So as I said, normally we would have about 12 to 15 companies. And in almost all cases, the question would be, how can we expand into new markets? I'll give you examples of some bigger companies that just to give you examples of the industries, but then give you more specific examples with specific questions. So, for example, as I said, Mercedes-Benz wanted ideas with marketing strategy for Africa and Southeast Asia. Louis Vuitton, the company that makes those expensive bags, they were asking where they should open the next store or stores and how to design those stores to make them appealing to that geography. Home Depot, it's like North American, like IKEA type of thing. So home improvement store, in fact, apparently the biggest in the world. Again, they have stores in the United States, Canada, and Mexico. They tried China once, it didn't work. And so they want to expand into new markets. And so they were asking, so where should we go and how would it be done?
Yeah, cool.
So in most cases, that's the challenge. What is the most promising market? Do your research and recommend one. What is the best way to enter that market? Should it be some sort of exporting, or maybe a joint venture, or maybe wholly owned subsidiary? What is the best marketing strategy for a market like this? How much will it cost? Where should we advertise? What is the I don't know, slogan and all that stuff. HR, if we have to hire people in that country, how much to pay, how to compensate them. Logistics, if it's a physical product, how should we ship it? How much will it cost? How much time will it take? Are there any import duties? Are there any certification requirements and things like that? Among the smaller companies, and lately we kind of prefer to work with smaller companies, like medium-sized, where they do well in one region and they're ready to expand, they just don't know how. Like, again, looking at Johnson and Johnson, I mean, come on, these guys, they have operations pretty much in every country out on the planet. I mean, I bet in every single one, maybe except for North Korea. And they probably have so much organizational experience, so much international experience. There is really not much our students can tell them that they don't know. But if you take a smaller company that works, let's say, in a couple of countries, or maybe one or two, three countries, they have the capacity. They wish they could sell to more countries. They just don't have the resources to do this research and find the best markets and do the research on those markets. And that's where our students come very handy and can bring very useful ideas. So usually we try to aim at kind of medium-sized, not too small, but also not too big. And if you know any of those. We had actually a few partners from Russia. There was one company, I forgot the name. They have like a strange abbreviation, but they make water and gas metering equipment. So they make basically those things that you put on the pipes that measure how much gas and water you've consumed. And so apparently they have a very viable position in Russia, and then also work in, I think they said, Mongolia and China. So they would like to sell to more countries, and they just don't know how to go about it. So we worked with them. I think they're headquartered somewhere in Kazan. So we had a few companies from Russia, seemed to work very well. So hopefully there will be more in the future.
Yeah.
Cool, thank you.
Sure, it will. Thank you. Yeah, we have been trying. Yeah, I think it's a great project, and it will be successful in Russia as well. And I think that our event, which we conducted today, I mean, it was first time for us we tried to manage these online and offline activities, and devoted to the subject, which is really, I mean, crucial for the success of X culture, of the companies which are distributing, like Splat, which for companies who are developing, I mean, software and all kind of intellectual property. It's really very, I mean, important issue for such type of companies, and even for supply chain management, which actually Artem, I think it's very interesting for me personally. I didn't get the clear picture what is the distributed team in supply chain management, but I believe that this is, I mean, really a hard job for
I don't know either. I work in finance.
In finance. Sorry.
What a surprise.
Sorry. I just remember your Kaliningrad part of your life. The rest part of your life is not so not so transparent for me. Sorry. So I want you to get a picture, and we together with Seva will make some attempts to share the picture of challenges and solutions as a resume of our workshop through YouTube to all of you. And I mean, for all of you who are online, you can't see this picture, but believe me that almost all fields are filled up. The only one which is not filled is transmit of non-verbal communication. So non-verbal communication. Me personally, I know how to transmit non-verbal communication. It's emoji. Is emoji, yes. And I know that it becomes more and more popular. And me personally, I just love to use emoji everywhere, you know.
I,
Maybe sometimes too
I
much.
noticed. That's why I'm seeing all kinds of
I
strange figures at your messages.
Yes, that's why, I try to solve this problem.
Oh yeah. Now I
Non-verbal
know.
communication.
Now I
yeah.
know.
Maybe there are some other tools, I don't know. Do you know, Alexey?
Video conferencing.
Video, yes, video.
Yeah, we all actually concluded probably that, seeing each other is invaluable, to develop trust and to succeed in doing things together.
Yes.
So
And video conference, yes, I think it's very important. Think of the communication of remote work, and that's why actually I wanted to invite Mediolux here. Because this is their business, I mean, to make it more and more effective. So, do we have any questions
comments
still left? And
just
comments,
to wrap up
yeah.
what we learn, what we hear, what we wish to learn, to know more, anything that you can come up with at the end.
Yeah, we tried to manage this workshop. It is a first workshop, and we tried to manage it. I mean, quite a large one. Yeah, so it's a lot of speakers, a lot of information, and probably we will. We will have some chance to continue it somewhere. Yeah, yeah.
I will stand up. I have participated in X Culture project, and it was really a great experience for me. And now today, I was happy to see Vas Taras, like in life, in person, yeah, and to hear
I
about.
feel so important.
Yeah, and it was really nice to hear all this experience, because now I'm thinking about distance work. So
Distance work,
yeah. So
I think almost all of us dream about distant work. I mean,
it's a reality actually.
yeah, sitting somewhere on a beach and and working. Yeah.
Well, talking about like X culture, I have no doubt that it's just like great project. I hope that I have like the second opportunity to participate, because actually I can't say that I have like bad teamwork, but well, actually it was funny for me because like they placed me like a little bit later. I would say like,
This is Fabricia from Brazil.
yeah, and then when I how to say, I got like into the chat, I asked them like, hey guys, I'm Fabricia, like from Brazil, how can I help you? And they said, like just read it and then you can, just say something and, like, to your coordinator, because like our job's done. But it was like after 5 days, like no answers, at all. And then I felt like, okay, so
Right.
Olga, she said that I will have like this opportunity to participate again, because I felt like, okay, so if I can do anything, like it doesn't matter like to have this paper that I participate. Like I think like the experience and is much more important than the paper. Like I always say, like, I'm 30 years old, so I'm here like in Russia. I really like don't care about papers. I just wanna, how to say, get to know like new things, like experience and knowledge. So that's why I would like to have the second opportunity, if you don't mind, to participate.
And you can obviously, so there are multiple ways you can stay engaged. If you would like to complete it again as a student, I suppose why not? But then a better option may be to do it as a coach. So, we have the coaching program. And if you think you learned something and you would like to share your experience and gain sort of more managerial experience, we have the coaching program for that. So you will have to complete additional training. But then when done, you basically will coach the new generation of X-Culture students. So that's another option. So as a student, as a coach, and then, as I said, we organize the symposium twice a year. So the next one will be in Canada in a few weeks. Then we have another one in San Antonio, in Texas, in the United States in November. then next summer in Grenada, in the Caribbean, in the summer. And then we are looking, we got requests from Greece, from China, and from Florida, a university there. So we're trying to decide where the next one will be happening. But again, hopefully some of you will be able to attend some of those future meetings.
Sure.
So yeah, if you would like to stay in touch, let me know, send me an email. We'll definitely find a way for you to participate either again or in a new capacity again.
And I want to say that I'm very happy that I saw the best university in my city, my hometown, like São Paulo. It's there. So
Oh yeah, we have.
I know that very nice project, and so thank you for the opportunity.
Yeah, we actually have several universities from São Paulo. This FVG, or what's the abbreviation there? I never. Yeah, well, anyway, so that one participates all the time.
Like I saw, it's like we say USP in Portuguese, but it's USP. It's like yes, it's like it's the best one, I would say.
Yeah. We now have a couple from Rio as well, from Brazil. So obviously, so.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Thank you.
All right, thank you, everyone. Yes.
Students who have not been in this culture yet, are you ready? Are you ready to apply? What do you think?
Yes, I want to apply in X culture. I think it's a very interesting program and very helpful.
Yeah. Okay.
We are always open to collaboration. So yes.
So if we don't have any more comments and questions, I would love to thank all of you who come here and who devoted time
to take this call.
Yeah, to such a exciting topic of the future. And thanks to speakers, to participants.
Yeah, to Artyom,
To
Alexey,
Artyom,
Vas.
yes.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
And to Seva, hosting us here.
Yes. And I hope we will be in touch for our future endeavors. All of us.
What's the saying? Everything will be okay, or everything will be good.
Everything will be fine.
Yeah, everything will be fine. So yes.
Best of luck to all the participants of X Culture and the Kraus Lab.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Это я. Это ты стучишь. Когда не надо. Когда не надо. Сева уже второй микрофон мне дал. Ты неправильно держишь. Ребят, ну, здорово. Спасибо. Спасибо всем. Наша почта. Яна. Все молодцы. Всем спасибо. Я думала, что у нас еще будет возможность чуть-чуть поговорить. Поэтому говорим, что в субботу на Reallife, а с вами какая-то потеря. Нет?